have this opportunity to share with you some of my experiences. I'm just going to jump right in. Before we get into the current art scene, I'm going to start with touching on my backstory. I grew up in a household that was like many Indian households. I witnessed gender inequalities supported by cultural conditioning. When the women in my world tried to speak up and use their voice, I saw how the odds were stacked against them. And the pressure came from all around. Husbands, in-laws, especially the mother-in-law, parents, elders in the community, and the list goes on. I despised the expectations placed on my mother, and then as I got older on me, I couldn't understand how the men in my world didn't see how unfair the double standard was. And when we talk about role models, I didn't connect with any. Though I saw my mother as a very strong woman, she's sitting right here in the front row. I saw how misogyny and cultural norms was wearing her down. This kind of future for myself scared me. In university, I felt the overwhelming pressure to get married, but at the same time, I wasn't allowed to openly date. Now, it's not like my parents didn't want me to be happy, but they were just trying to protect me in a world that scared them. And then it happened in my third year. At the start of it, I met a guy. And by the end of my fourth year, we were married. But now I had some space to make my own decisions. But the programming of my early years were rooted, and these ideas haunted me. Flash forward to my late 20s, my early 30s. I left my corporate job to raise my two daughters. After I had my first daughter, 9 months later, I was pregnant with my second. I was super efficient like that. And then for a second income, I started a home-based wedding floral business that serviced 50 or so weddings annually. I supported my husband's ambition. I ran my household. I had fulfilled the traditional role that was put before me. By all accounts, I should be satisfied. But something was missing, and it manifested in a feeling that I can only describe as a deep sadness, and I carried it around in my gut. And that eventually led me to make some decisions, and I enrolled in an art class. And then soon after that, I enrolled into a program at Emily Carr University of Art and Design. And towards the end of that program, I began sourcing out spaces for exhibitions. Now, pursuing art for me was not an easy decision. It was a leap of faith. When I was a teen, I took art classes and in high school, and I was good. But as soon as my work came out of the display case, it didn't make its way home. I would make confetti out of my paintings and drawings, and I would ceremoniously chip away at my sculptures until they were just a pile of rubble, and then I would throw that away into a garbage container at the other side of my school because I didn't want my art teacher to see that. I did this because I was repeatedly told that art was not a career option. And when I brought home my work, that just sparked the reminders. When I thought about selling my work in a commercial gallery, that didn't inspire me. If I was only interested in making money out of my creative efforts, I was already doing that with my flower business. And as I did my research into the Canadian art scene, I found the statistics disturbing. So let's look locally, for example, at the Vancouver Art Gallery. A mere 15% of the contemporary solo exhibitions featured female artists. Now, is that because there aren't nearly as many female artists as there are male artists? What I found was 63% of the living artists in Canada are female. Furthermore, the Art Gallery in Ontario and the National Art Gallery in Canada, also located in Ontario, when I was looking at their charts, when it came to solo exhibitions of contemporary female artists, women of color had zero representation. And these numbers are from a 2015 publication. It's not like women weren't creating incredible artwork throughout history, but their contribution has been omitted from galleries, permanent collections, classrooms, as well as art history books. Not entirely omitted though, right? Because 85% of the nudes represented in artworks are women. This is just a hint to give you an idea idea of the gender inequality that exists within the Canadian art scene. While visiting public galleries, I came out of such institutions feeling empty because the exhibitions were not reflective of the community they represent, and they certainly weren't reflective of me. Furthermore, I began to think, how was I ever going to make it in these institutions when I'm a woman of color? That's like a double whammy. Plus, I don't have an MFA or a BFA. In an age of xenophobia and Islamophobia, shouldn't these institutions of education expand their narratives? Instead, they cater their exhibitions to a mostly homogeneous group of subscribers. I felt that as an artist, and who's a female and a Muslim, that I had a responsibility, and it was time for me to use my voice. That voice that had been buried within me for decades. I began to source out spaces at the community level and mount my own exhibitions, sharing the ideas that I felt were important. I became a curator, I gathered artists, I selected artworks focusing on the narratives that I felt were underrepresented. With every exhibition I participated in, I curated, my skills grew, I grew. In 2016, I curated an exhibition called Commonality at the Newton Cultural Center, where 11 female artists, the majority of them are Muslims, they looked at the shared values between Canadians and Muslims. With the media, I knew that the community was curious about Muslim women. And I also knew that Muslim female artists were non-threatening. Here I saw how we could use the feminine voice as a gentle yet powerful tool to educate the community. One of the featured pieces was called Pages of Pluralism, where 3 female artists got together. A Sikh, a Christian, and myself, a Muslim. Every time I say this, I think a funny joke is going to start. I know we took clips from the Guru Granth Sahib, the Bible, the Quran, quotes that represented love, devotion, forgiveness, education, linking commonalities amongst these 3 books. I was tired about hearing all the divisions and the negativity, and so this project was inspired. What I thought was going to be a little blurb in the entertainment section of the Surrey News Leader turned out to be the front page cover story. And at the time, the editor of the Surrey News Leader was managing other publications, and so the exhibition story became the cover story of these publications now. And then CBC Radio picked up the story, and I was interviewed by Gloria Makarenko. This is when I realized the messaging of this exhibition went well beyond the 4 walls of this gallery. Plus, I also learned the power of media. This was all new to me. I was still raising my 2 children and working full-time as a florist. For the telephone interviews, I settled my kids and then I put on business attire. And I did this because it was a technique I used to help me focus. I was juggling so many things, so I needed to focus my mindset. I knew that, I felt the pressure because I knew that I wasn't just representing myself as an artist, but what I was going to say was going to be reflected on my community, as well as the greater Muslim community. In juggling all the components of my life, I developed something called grit. I also developed something called anxiety. I was taking on a lot more in the art world, and so I was having a lot more frequent panic attacks, and that's when I realized that something had to give. That led me to wrap up my flower business. So what's my plan moving forward? I've never really had a plan that was fully visible, but I came across an idea, and I hope it may inspire some of you. It's called 10 feet of visibility. So if it's foggy outside and you can't see where you're going, it's not safe to drive. But consider, the visibility is so poor that you only have 10 feet of visibility. If you consider driving 10 feet, the next 10 feet will become available to you. And if you keep doing that, eventually you'll reach your destination. You can always stay home where it's safe, but I want you to remember something. That growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. Truth be told, I don't have 10 feet of visibility. I'm so nearsighted when it comes to visualizing my own future. I focus on the next steps. Over the past few years, I have been working on a book. I've finished the manuscript and I am now in the editing phase. It looks at gender inequalities and how it's supported by cultural conditioning. This book is written through the eyes of a child. It is my backstory and how I found my voice. I'd like to conclude with a spoken word which I feel sums up my journey so far. So emotional. Sorry. Okay, can you all hear me? Okay. So spoken word is performance poetry. And it's a wonderful way of storytelling. Here we go, spoken word. I am a South Asian. And well before I became tween with every family occasion, it became clear to me that I am a girl. And this realization was an invasion to my recreation, a demotion, a corrosion to my spirit. Why? I think it has to do with having a daughter, especially for immigrant parents from the East. These crippling ideas are passed down through the generations to our parents, from their grandparents, elders within the community, perhaps even their priests. Long ago, I was fed these ideas, and they imprinted themselves into my subconscious. I told myself that one day, I will live by my own rules. But it was too late. My subconscious had been polluted, my voice muted, my dreams looted, these ideas rooted. I began to feel unsuited for success, abundance, independence. My constitution was set. It was time to forget, close myself off from my creative outlets, readjust my mindset. Yes, this was an upset. And then the voices started. At first only half-hearted, perhaps because I was so guarded, but they eventually told me that I was meant to be an artist. And I knew this since I was a child, but I had lost all these years, and in the process, filled myself with so many fears. I just wanted to hide. The thing about hiding is that you're never really hidden from yourself, and your dreams, well, they're never lost. I had a talk with my subconscious. I was gentle yet firm. We are doing this. Never again will I dismiss a voice inside. And I want you all to know that you should never give up on your dreams, because your dreams will never give up on you. Thank you.